Good day, I am Jan Palapigo and I will present to you what I have learned on this subject. Without further ado, let's get started. Week 1, Human Development, Meaning, Concepts and Approaches. Human development. Human development refers to the physical, cognitive, and psychosocial development of humans throughout the lifespan. There are three domains of life: physical domain, cognitive domain, and psychosocial domain. Physical domain involves growth and changes in the body and brain, the senses, motor skills, health, and wellness. Cognitive domain involves learning, attention, memory, language, thinking, reasoning, and creativity. Psychosocial domain involves emotion, personality, and social relationship. Some major principles of human development. Development is relatively orderly. Development is likely to be similar. The outcomes of developmental process and the rate of development are likely to vary among individuals. Development takes place gradually. Development as a process is complex because it is the product of biological, cognitive, and socio-emotional processes. Pattern of development. Proximodistal pattern, where growth starts at the center of the body and moves toward the extremities. Cephalocaudal pattern refers to the tendency for growth to follow a sequence in which development moves from top to bottom. Week 2. The stages of development and development tasks. Prenatal period. It involves tremendous growth from single cell to an organism complete with brain and behavioral capabilities. Infancy. It is a time of extreme dependence on adults. Many psychological activities are just beginning. Language, symbolic, thought, sensorimotor, coordination, and social learning. Early childhood. These are the preschool years. Young children learn to become more self-sufficient and to care for themselves, develop school readiness and skills, and spend many more hours in play with peers. Middle and late childhood. The fundamental skills of reading, writing, and arithmetic are mastered. The child formally exposed to the larger world and its culture. Adolescence begins with rapid physical changes, dramatic gains in height and weights, change in body contour, the development of sexual characteristics such as enlargement of the breast, development of pubic and facial hair, and deepening the voice. Early childhood. It is a time of establishing personal and economic independence, career development, selecting a mate, learning to live with someone in an intimate way, starting a family and rearing child. Middle adulthood. It is a time of expanding personal and social involvement and responsibility, of assisting the next generation in becoming competent and mature individuals, and reaching and maintaining satisfaction in a career. Late adulthood. It is a time for adjustment to decreasing strength and health, life review, retirement, and adjustment to new social rules. Week 3. Teacher as consumers and users of research. Teacher as researchers. The scientific method. Research design. Data gathering technique. Teachers as consumers and user of research. Teachers and policymakers may use the information gained from the research to make informed decisions for the benefits of students and their families. Teachers that are well informed are able to apply and incorporate the most reliable study findings. The scientific method: identify and define the problem, determine the hypothesis, collect and analyze data, formulate conclusion, apply conclusion to the original hypothesis. Research design: case study, an in-depth look at an individual. Correlational study, a research design that determines association. Experimental study. The experimental methods involve manipulating one variable to determine if changes in one variable cause changes in another variables. Naturalistic observation. A research design that focuses on children's experiences in natural settings. This does not involve any intervention or manipulation on the part of the researchers. Longitudinal study. This research design studies and follows through single group over a period of time. Cross-sectional study, a research strategy in which individuals of different ages are compared at one time. Sequential study, this is the combined cross-sectional and longitudinal approaches to learn about lifespan development. Action research is a reflective process of progressive problem solving led by individuals working with others in terms or as a part of community of practice to improve the way they address issues and solve problems. Data gathering technique. Observation. It can be made in either laboratories or natural settings. Sociological measures. Certain indicators of children's development such as among others heart rate, hormonal levels, bone growth, body weight, and brain activity are measured. Standardized. These are prepared tests that assess individuals' performance in different domains. Interviews and questionnaires involve asking the participant to provide information about themselves based on the interview's questionnaires. Life history records. These are records of information about lifetime chronology of events and activities. Week 4: Sigmund Freud's Psychosexual Theory. Psychosexual theory, the focus of libido on the distinct part of the body is referred to as psychosexual stage, which is generally translated as sexual drives or instinct. The physical development of a person makes specific part of their body more essential as sources of potential erogenous zone, pleasures, or both. Life, according to Sigmund Freud, is built around tension and pleasure. He also believed that the build-up of desired sexual energy was the source of all tension, and that release of it was the source of all pleasure. The three-component and personality adjustment. Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theory of personality argues that human behavior is the result of the interaction among three component parts of the mind: the ID, ego, and superego. Oral stage. In the first stage of psychosexual development, the libido is centered in the baby's mouth. It gets much satisfaction from putting all sorts of things in its mouth to satisfy the libido, and thus its demands, which at this stage in life are all oral or mouth oriented, such as sucking, biting, and breastfeeding. Anal stage. The primary aim of the libido during the anal stage, according to Sigmund Freud, was to control bladder and bowel motion. Toilet training is the main source of contention at this period, since the child must learn to manage their bodily requirement. When you master these skills, you gain a sense of accomplishment and self-sufficiency. Phallic stage. Freud suggested that during the phallic stage, the primary focus of the libido is on the genital. At this age, children also begin to discover the difference between males and females. Latency stage. The latent stage is when the sexual energy is restrained or inactive during the exploratory phase. In other domains, like as academic endeavor and social interaction, this energy is still there. The development of social and communication skills as well as self-assurance is crucial at this stage. Genital stage. The libido is activated once more with the onset of puberty. The individual develops a strong sexual desire in the opposite sex throughout the final stage of psychosexual development. This stage begins in puberty and lasts for the rest of a person's life, but is not the only one. Week 5, Piaget's Stages of Cognitive Development. Cognitive development theory. According to Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development, children go through 4 stages of mental growth. His idea is concerned not only with how children learn but also with the nature of intelligence itself. When children undertake experiments, observe, and learn about their surroundings, Piaget felt that they take an active role in the learning processes, behaving like tiny scientists. Young people continue to learn more about the world, expound on what they already know, and alter previously held beliefs to accommodate new information as a result of their interaction with it. Stages of Piaget cognitive development. Sensory motor stage from birth to infancy. The first stage coincides. This is when a child creeping, sucking, and reaching reflexes begin to become more structured in his movement and activity. The word sensory motor refers to the importance of the infant's senses and muscles movement and learning about himself and the surrounding. Pre-operational stage ranges from 2 to 7 years old, roughly the same as the preschool years. At this point, intelligence is purely instinctive. The youngster is now able to construct mental images and pretend that he or she is getting closer to using symbols. Concrete operational stage. This stage is characterized by the ability of the child to think logically but only in terms of concrete objects. This covers approximately the ages between 8 to 11 years old or the elementary years. Formal operational stage. In Piaget hypothesis, the final stage involves a greater comprehension of abstract concepts, a higher level of logic, and the ability to apply deduction. This is when people can see various answers to problems and begin to consider the world around them more scientifically as a result of this development. Erik Erikson's psychosocial theory of development. The term psychosexual development is a fancy way of describing how a person's psychological requirements interact with society wants and demand. A person goes through 8 stages of growth that builds on each other according to Erikson. We face a problem at each step, but resolving the problem will develop psychological strength or character traits that help us become confident and healthy people. Stages of Erikson's psychosocial theory of development. Trust versus mistrust. The infant form of loving, trusting relationship with caregiver, which in turn forms the foundation for the expectation of the world as a secure, pleasant place to live. If this stage is not negotiated successfully, the infant may be mistrustful, fearful, and anxious about the future. Autonomy versus shame. Infants and toddlers begin to explore their world and assert their independence. A successful resolution at this stage may lead to feeling of shame and self-doubt. Initiative versus guilt. As the world brings new obstacles and demands more responsibility, the preschooler must increasingly rely on active and purposeful conduct. A sense of accomplishment comes from unsuccessfully coping with new obstacles, which, if children are thought to feel overly worried or too forceful, they may develop guilt. Industry versus inferiority. The school-age child must learn to deal with demands to learn a wide range of new skills, including the task of formal schooling. If he or she is unable to learn these skills, it can lead to feeling of failure and incompetence. Identity versus rule, confusion. At this period of development, The most important goal is to build a sense of self identity in terms of beliefs, sexual rules, and occupation. If this stage is not effectively navigated, it may lead to over identification with the belief of classmates or parents, as well as a lack of understanding of goals and gender rules. Intimacy versus isolation. At this stage, individuals face the task of forming intimate relationship with others. If the individual is successful, he or she is able to form healthy friendship and intimate relationship with others. If not, social and emotional isolation could result. Generosity versus stagnation. The focus of the stage is on parenting. By generosity, Erickson means helping the next generation to develop and lead a useful life. The feeling of having done little or nothing to help develop and support the next generation is stagnation. Integrity versus despair. It will be with a feeling of contentment and fulfillment when the individual looks back on his or her life after successfully resolving the crisis linked with earlier stage. It is conceivable that looking back will lead to thoughts of despair if previous crises have not been resolved positively. Week 7 Coleridge Theory of Moral Development. Coleridge's theory of moral development is a theory that focuses on how children develop morality and moral reasoning. Coleridge's theory suggests that moral development occurs in a series of 6 stages. The theory also suggested that moral logic is primarily focused on seeking and maintaining justice. Coleridge's theory of moral development. Pre-conventional morality. The earliest stage of moral development is known as pre-conventional morality. It lasts until about the age of 9 years old. Children's decisions are mostly influenced by adults' expectations and penalties of disobeying the rules at this age. Within this level, there are 2 stages: obedience and punishment, and individualism and exchange. Conventional morality. Acceptance of social convention about what is desirable and moral marks the stage of moral development. Adolescent and adult internalize the moral principles they have learned from their role models and society during this period. At this level of morality, there are 2 stages: development of good intrapersonal relationship and maintaining social order. Post-conventional morality. At this level of moral development, people develop an understanding of abstract principles of morality. The two stages the 2 stages at this level are the social contract and individual rights and the universal principles. Week 8 Vygotsky Socio-Cultural Development. Sociocultural theory is a new psychological theory that examines the crucial roles that society plays in a person's development. The link between developing people and the culture in which they inhabit is emphasized in this theory. Human learning, according to sociocultural theory, is largely a social process. The zone of proximal development is a key notion in sociocultural theory. As defined by Vygotsky, this refers to the gap between the level of actual development as measured by self-directed problem solving and the level of potential development as measured by problem solving under adult supervision or collaboration with more capable peer groups. Vygotsky highlighted scaffolding as a strategy for growth to assist learners acquire independence. The term scaffolding refers to a process of teaching. In scaffolding, teachers models and demonstrate how to solve a problem for their students. Week 9, Bronfenbrenner's Ecological Theory. Bronfenbrenner's ecological theory system views child development as a complex system of relationships affected by multiple levels of the surrounding environment, from immediate settings of family and schools to broad cultural values, laws, and costume and customs. Bronfenbrenner divided the person's environment into 5 different systems: the microsystem, the mesosystem, the exosystem, the macrosystem, and the chronosystem. Week 10, Prenatal Period. Stages of prenatal period development. In humans, this union marks the start of the prenatal period, which consists of 3 stages. First, the germinal period, the first 2 weeks of development, which is period of cell division and initial differentiation, or cell maturation. Second, the embryonic period, or period of organogenesis, which lasts from the 3rd to the 8th week of development. And third, the fetal period, which is characterized by the maturation of tissues and organs and rapid growth of the body. The prenatal period ends with parturition and is followed by a long postnatal period. Only at about age 25 years are the last progressive changes completed. Teratology and hazard to prenatal development. Prescription and non-prescription drugs. Prescription drugs, thalidomide, and antibiotics can be harm on the developing fetus. Non-prescription drug. The mothers should be careful from the time of conception. Anything should take the unborn child's absorb. Paracetamols can also be considered as non-prescription drugs. Examples of these are diet pills, aspirin, and coffee. Psychoactive drugs. Women who drank caffeinated coffee during pregnancy were more likely to have preterm births and babies born with lower birth weights than those who did not. The so-called fetal alcohol syndrome is caused by pregnant women excessive drinking. Environmental hazards. Radiation from construction sites and the X-rays. Pollution from the environment, toxic waste, and prolonged heat exposure in saunas and bathtubs are just a few examples. When a pregnant woman's core body temperature is regularly 37 degrees Celsius, it will often rise to around 37.8 degrees Celsius. Maternal factors. A developing fetus depends entirely on its mother for nutrition. It is recognized that maternal nutrition during pregnancy may result in inadequate growth of the fetus. Paternal factors. Paternal factors that can adversely affect prenatal development include exposure to lead, radiation, certain and petrochemicals. Week 11. Physical development of infants and toddlers. Height and weights. It is normal for newborn babies to drop 5 to 10% of their body weights within a couple of weeks of birth. That is due to the baby's adjustment to neonatal feedings. Once they adjust to sucking, swallowing, and digesting, they grow rapidly. Motor development means the physical growth and strengthening of a child's bones, muscles, and ability to move, touch his or her surroundings. Reflexes. There are many different reflexes. Some of the most common reflexes that babies have are sucking reflex, rooting, gripping, curling, startle moral, gallant, and tonic reflex. Gross motor skills involves large muscles in the arm, legs, and torso. Walking, running, throwing, lifting, kicking, and other daily physical tasks requires a gross motor skills. Gross motor talent includes body awareness, reaction speed, balance, and strength, and they are the foundation for fine motor skills. Fine motor skills are skills that involves our fine use of small muscles controlling the hand, fingers, and thumb. Development of these skills allows one to be able to complete tasks such as writing, drawing, and botaning. Week 12, Cognitive Development of Infants and Toddlers. During the first 2 years of life, babies not only grows physically but also cognitively. Every day, as they interact with others and learn about their surroundings, they form new connections and pathways between nerve cells, both within their brains and between their brains and the rest of the body. Object permanence. The term object permanence is used to describe a child's ability to know the objects continue to exist, even though they can no longer be seen or heard. The concept of object permanence play a significant role in the theory of cognitive development created by psychologist John Piaget. Language development. 3 to 12 months. During the first year of life, babbling is a critical development stage. Around the age of 12 months, children often begin to speak for the first time. As your child grows closer to pronouncing his or her first word, you may hear babble, jargon, and new words mixed in. 12 to 18 months. At this age, children often say their first words with meaning. For example, when your child says dada, your child is actually calling for your dad. In the next few months, your child will keep adding more words to their vocabulary. 18 months to 2 years, your child's vocabulary will have grown by the second year, and they will begin to string two words together to form short sentences. Much of what you say will be understood by your child, and you will be able to understand what your children say to you and most of the time. Week 13, Socio-emotional development of infants and toddlers. The formative years. It is said the importance of the first 3 years in human development. The formative years or the early stages of childhood are between 0 to 8 years old of a child life, where they learn more quickly than at any other time in life. These are the years in which a child experiences rapid cognitive, social, emotional, and physical development. Attachment. According to Dr. John Bowley, the father of attachment theory, the beginning of attachment occurs within the first 6 months of a baby's life, with a variety of built-in signals that baby uses to keep her caregiver engaged. Temperaments. Temperaments is a term that captures the ways that people differ in such things as emotional reaction, activity level, attention span, tenacity, and ability to regulate their emotion, even down to birth. Every newborn has personality features that we refer to as temperament. Supporting socio-emotional development for infants and toddlers. Each infant and toddler develops at his or her own rate. Socio-emotional development is dependent upon ongoing responsive relationship. Week 14, Preschool Development. The preschooler years is commonly known as the years before formal schooling begins. It roughly covers 3 to 5 years of age. Although it is known as the years before formal school, it is by no way less important than the grade school years. The preschool years is very important as it lays foundation to later development. Gross motor development refers to acquiring skills that involve the large muscles. These gross motor skills are categorized into three: locomotor, non-locomotor, and manipulative skills. Locomotor skills are those that involves going from one place to another, like walking, running, climbing, skipping, hopping, creeping, and dodging. Non-locomotor ones are where the child stays in place, like bending, stretching, turning, and swaying. Manipulative skills are those that involve projecting, receiving objects like throwing, striking, bouncing, catching, and dribbling. Fine motor development refers to acquiring the ability to use the smaller muscle in the arm, hands, and finger purposely. Some of the skills included here are picking, squeezing, pounding, and opening things, holding and using a writing implement. Preschooler artistic development stages of drawing. Stage 1 Scribbling stage. This stage begins with large zigzag lines which later become circular markings. Stage 2 Pre schematic stage. At this point, adult may be able to recognize the drawing several times. Step 3 Schematic stage. More elaborate senses are depicted. Preschoolers' nutrition and sleep. It is important for preschooler to get sufficient amount of rest and sleep. Preschoolers are asleep to vital biological processes that affect physical and cognitive development take place. Week 15 Cognitive development of the preschoolers. Brain connection in the preschooler years. Because of fascinating development in neuroscience, brain development of young children has been of great interest to the field of early childhood. Brain research finding points us to more effective ways to care for and teach preschooler. From science lesson you had in high school or even in elementary, you will remember that our brain is composed of neural cells called neurons that connects to each other to function. Information processing theory, attention, and memory. Another method to look at and understand how children develop intellectually is to use the information processing model. This model imagines a computer processing, encoding, storing, and decoding data to represent children's mental processes. The young children's theory of mind. Theory of mind refers to individual thoughts about how mental processes work. They begin to construct a theory of mind or a set of ideas about mental activities. This develop markedly between the ages of 3 and 5. It includes awareness of one's own thoughts process, social cognition, and understanding that people can hold false beliefs